y'all check it out. I think this is worth listening to. This is Earth. This is where we are. These are the ice rings. This is the ancestral republic where the book was written. This woman was born beyond the ice walls, and her dad crossed this area into the land of Mars. There's a human colony here, and all these other lands like Saturn, Neptune, Anunnaki, custodians. Things are brought into here to this laboratory, and they're experimented on, and they're made into hybrids, and they send these things out to us on these experimentations, these creatures. Over here is the land of the reptilians, lands of Hydra. We got all the ice rings. And right here, second Earth, land of clones. And let me read you something. I'm going to go through this chapter real quick so you just can get a feel for the context of what's being said. Chapter 2, Mars. One of the most talked about planets in this last humanity, and where more visits have been made since the beginning, are the land of Mars, who have received several humans during the timeline and the different post-resetting beginnings. Today, there is a large colony of humans on Mars, also dominated by the custodians and the Anunnaki, but in a totally different way to the known lands, since those who are there is by pure merit, by performing different tasks against their own race to achieve their one-way passage with no return. As we commented in previous books, the navigator who crossed the ice walls and Terra Infinitiva, extraterrestrial worlds and their civilizations, R.E. Bird, has been able to visit these lands on several occasions, and until the last thing that is known about him, he is still there living with his human colleagues in his gift for betraying his brothers. Although living in these lands has benefits such as being able to live 4 or 5 times more years than in the same land, not having the incredible amount of diseases that we have today in the known lands, and not having to worry about working or obtaining food as it is done here. It also has great negative points, like being in a permanent war with the neighboring races, the Greys, Orion lands, some draconian colony, or also known as the Enemines, Draco lands. But also exist and existed are other races that were moved there during the conquest of the other worlds between the custodians and the Anunnaki beings. This is what R. Bird reported to the base after the first expedition that succeeded in crossing the extensive path between Antarctic Passage and the only one known today as Bird Passage. That leads to the famous Mars lands. Upon returning and making contact again with the operators who were attentively awaiting information to where the rear admiral really was, he told them that he had passed 2 membrane fields, but that he had encountered problems during the passage to Mars. These lands are not similar to ours, not even after the first membrane. There is a force that pushes you and imprisons you in the chest where you enter. It was a sensation that I've never felt before. This record was kept forever in the secret reports handled by the high military officials in the United States of America. Such was his confusion upon entering that he was also immediately visited by beings from Orion, who accompanied him until he stepped on the lands of Aria, the first lands near the passage, right there. Bird was accompanied by a member of the custodians known as Nimrod, who obviously knew these lands very well, and he spoke with the beings that inhabit it, then gathered a human colony that at that time occupied another part of area, but with the time and some conflicts with other beings had to take refuge and inhabit the island away from the mainland. Former politicians, members of important agencies, well-known characters from the past gave rise to one of the largest human gatherings within the misnamed red planet in this circle environment. There is no room for many humans, only a handful of those who did homework for the custodians and earned their one-way ticket. While at first inhospitable lands for those who visited in the beginning, in recent times humans began to grow in numbers and adapted well to the island to carry on their development and allied communication with their neighbors. Having expanded their longevity, this leads them to beings that learn many tasks, which have much knowledge. Weapons technology of warfare is developed for attack and defense in conjunction with technology that was given to them by the custodians in ancient times.